put yourself on mute when you're not talking. I know Sue, you're drilled. It's drilled into Sue McLean. She put herself on mute straight away. A lot of my clients actually are shying away from the camera altogether. So I'd love to know how you feel about remote meetings. There's going to be a poll in a few moments. I'd love to know if you love them, if you hate them, if you avoid the camera. One of my clients the other day said she'd rather be under a desk, or whether you're doing these kind of mistakes. So people have been emailing me all kinds of mistakes they've seen. I mean, some I cannot repeat because they're too X-rated and we all have children in our house at the moment. We don't really want to repeat some of that. One of my favorites has got to be the boss here on the left with the left hand pink arrow. The boss who turned herself into a potato for the entire meeting couldn't turn herself back. Imagine having a board meeting with your boss. Hello, I'm a potato. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just going to have to stay potato today. And I don't know if you heard about the Welsh minister there on the right with the pink arrow. The Welsh minister who, you know, I've worked at the BBC for many years. I've got to tell you, he had what I would call a mic up, muck up. He left his mic up, and after the meeting, he started swearing about the minister. Oh, it's so embarrassing. And that happened a lot of times at the BBC. We kind of learned that walls have ears. If you are in anywhere with a microphone or a camera, which these days is everywhere, don't swear. Do not slag somebody off behind their back. Do not pick your nose, and certainly don't start taking your clothes off, and worse. So I actually a friend of mine created this daily Zoom so we could share some of our Zoom antics, good stuff as well, good and bad stuff, but mainly, you know, there's so many things that can go wrong, and people that sound like Daleks and things like that. So yes, my background, as Sue said, it's broadcasting for many years, but now I work in business. I run my own business as a speaker and an author, and I'll be giving away my book later in a competition. But in my background as a broadcaster, I've learnt how to, I mean, most of the time I've been a producer, senior producer. I've been quite senior at the BBC for many years. I've been head of programs for a youth channel, and I've learnt the skill of being on camera and having to bring your audience along with you. And it is a skill, and you can learn it. It doesn't matter what your personality type is. It doesn't matter if you don't think I'm not born charismatic. There are certain things that you can learn that will make you so much more confident and look so much more professional with more gravitas. And I mean, I've spent many, many years with the equipment and the technology around me, but there are just certain easy peasy things that you're going to take away today about where to look, for example, how to work with a camera, that will make you so much better. So first of all, I think we have a poll. We have behind the scenes our poll master who's going to launch a poll for us. The question is, how brilliant are you at remote meetings? So here we are. How brilliant are you at remote meetings? Give yourself a mark out of 10. Are you 1? Help, I'm not confident. I was like that. I know how that feels. 2, I hate seeing myself on camera. I'm not good. 3, I dislike it, but I can do it if I'm forced with my hand behind my back. 4, I need to up my game. 5, okay. You know, I'm okay at one-to-ones, but I don't really like the group setting or the webinar setting. 6, not bad. I'd like to be better at engaging with my audience. 7, quite good. I've done a lot over the last few months. I'd like some professional tips, please. 8, I'm good, confident, but I need some more tips to look professional. 9, I'm really good. I often host remote sessions and I want to be even better. Good. I hope you are. I hope we have some 9s with us today. And who's 10? Excellent, Esther. I'm going to teach you a few things. Okay, so let's see if we can share the results of the panel. I'm not sure how quick the panel comes in, but let's see if we can share that. I know it takes a few seconds for the technology to work. So while we share the results with you in a few moments, I just wanted to talk about how I used to really dislike being on camera, and I still don't really like watching myself back. So Sue, so far, I know that we've had a chat about this before. If you want to unmute yourself, First of all, anyone saying hello from where they're from, a quick shout out to a
Oh,
couple more
yes.
people.
We've got Torsten from Aberdeen. So
Hello.
we're coming sort of far and wide to the session today. We've got a few folk from London, from a quiet central London, Westminster, Richmond.
Oh, lovely.
But yes, length and breadth, it seems. And Anna has said she prefers to avoid the camera if at all possible.
Yes.
So
well,
hopefully
Anna,
she'll feel more confident after this session about putting the camera on.
Absolutely. And Anna, I'm with you on that, but I used to avoid the camera, and I used to actually have almost a bit of a physical reaction. My body used to, almost come out in a rash, or I used to, sweat. And the thought, there's something I used to, when I used to do sessions live with people, quite often I'd say a camera is a bit like looking in, it's like shining a torch into your inner confidence. There's something about a camera you feel quite exposed in front of a camera. But as I said before, it's actually a skill to use a camera. Okay, so the poll looks as if, oh my goodness, lots of different results. Nobody's 9 or 10. Oh, but you're doing pretty well. So there's a lot of 6s, which is I'm not bad. I'd like to be better at engaging with my audience. So that's 28%. So about a third of people would like to engage with their audience. It's about a 6, but there's quite a lot of, gosh, I'm trying to think of what the mean average is. It's probably, it's probably under 6, because somebody's a 1, 3%, 1, help. I'm not confident. I was speaking to somebody the other day. She said, I just want to be under my desk. I hate turning the camera on. But the funny thing is, when you turn the camera on, she looked fine. And I think that's the interesting thing about this, is that you can fake it till you make it. I promise you. Okay, so let's get into the juicy bits then. Let's find out. I've already given you some ideas of why you might not like it. But and Sue, I'd like you to add to this in a moment. What are you most afraid of, or what don't you like about it? What is that? Why do you think, oh, I'll do it if I'm forced? I'm not really, I don't like it. I don't want to be on air. Don't want to go on camera. What is that? Could you put your finger on why it is, what the fear is, and why you don't like it? Sue, I know that we've talked about this before. What's your biggest kind of dread or fear?
I think they're all irrational fears, really, because it's all about, what if something goes wrong? What if I get, especially on camera with the media, what if I get asked a question I can't answer, or I don't know the answer to?
Yeah.
And I get tongue-tied. It's all around confidence. Someone said in the chat that their colleague attended a meeting where someone was clearly on the toilet, but luckily only audio. So, I mean, there are things that can go really badly wrong. But obviously, most of the time, you can cover up those kinds of risks.
I heard an awful one about the toilet, and somebody's laptop was on the floor of the toilets. And I've heard a recent colleague of mine, and I can't say which organisation she works for. She had one toilet, which is an audio toilet incident, and another one where somebody did actually pick their nose. Oh no! I mean, there's all kinds of things like that. So yeah, you've got to be careful of the tech when we're getting.
Yeah, I think it's but it's if you know what the tech's doing, I think it's more about I think the fear is not engaging, or just drying up, or tumbleweed in the audience, and I suppose from my perspective, the one of the challenges with these remote meetings is, even if you've kind of mastered, or you feel like you're much more confident in front of a live audience, is that there is no audience here potentially. Maybe in a sort of multi-Zoom meeting there is, but not in a webinar, and therefore it's kind of harder to engage with the lens. And that's the same when you're being interviewed, on TV or on radio. It's like there's no one to look at.
Sue, because one of the first tip of the day is, if you are doing a webinar or a large scale meeting or lesson or seminar or masterclass or something like that, or speech, what we're doing today, Sue is my co-pilot, you see. So having a co-pilot, even if it's somebody just behind the scenes, we've got Simon, who you can't see behind the scenes, who's doing the tech, but even having somebody there that you can go to, that can, or that can warn you of things, or change the chat, the order of the chat for you or something, having a team of people around you. Is that Simon saying hello? Hi, Simon. But it's really good to have, look, he's there, he's got his fingers on the buttons, you see. But just having Simon there is really, by the way, Simon, thank you so much. I want to say thank you to you. But having Simon there as part of the team is so much less overwhelming, and you feel much less exposed. So get somebody, a co-pilot, a team member, somebody that can go through the journey of the webinar with you. That helps. So please do keep your questions and comments coming in throughout. We will be taking questions at the end. Sue's going to be sharing them with me, and please feel free to interject, Sue, if you feel there's quite a few comments that are relevant to the tips. So the first, just a little bit of background about why video. And people have been talking about video for years, by the way. I mean, this is what COVID-19 has just fast tracked what I knew this was coming anyway, because I work with a lot of organizations that work with big accountancy firms and work with legal firms and work with techie firms. And you know this because your background's technology. I'm sure you know this. There are lots of organizations creating video software, video solutions for communication internally and externally. But the problem is that they've created all these beautiful these video solutions, and even in my clients' offices before COVID-19, these beautiful WebEx screens, and you can share screen and this screen, and the camera's a clever camera, it follows you around, but they don't go on camera because they don't like it. And I think the reason why people want to use video is because video is more powerful than audio only. I'll just give you a quick stat. In the advertising industry, for example, in the UK advertising industry, so cost per 1,000 people, just for advertising, for example, cost per 1,000 to advertise on television is around about £7. Cost, or £7.50, cost per 1,000 people for radio advertising is only about £1.50. So it's deemed 5 times more powerful as an engagement tool. So it's good if you can, learn the skill to do it. So some of the things that I get a lot of times when I hear people talking about what they don't like about their video conferencing, I hate the lens. I hate seeing myself on camera. I think there's a scientific reason as to why we hate watching ourselves back. All I can say is I hate watching myself back, and I don't think I've met anyone who actually likes watching themselves back. So you're normal. It's all right. Remember, your audience don't mind watching you. You don't like watching yourself. How can I handle my audience? How can I engage with my audience if I can't see their body language? How can you engage with somebody through a lens? There is an art to it. It's not the same as real life. It's a skill, and there's an art to it, and some of it is a bit of artifice. You cannot be in the room with somebody, so there is a way of engaging where it's not the same, and you do have to guess, I'm afraid. But I think the reason why we get so tired is because our brains are making up. Oh, I wonder what they're thinking. I wonder this, I wonder that. It's very tiring second guessing all the time. Whereas when you're in the room, you can see the way people are sitting, and you can see the way they're behaving towards you, and you can kind of settle down because you think, oh, well, they're listening, or they're enjoying it, or they're questioning. Whereas when you're through a lens, engaging through a lens, you're not quite sure. How do you know when to speak? It's awkward silences. I'm worried about the tech. I'm worried it might fail. There's quite a lot of anxiety around all the things that could go wrong. So let's just start. Let's start our top 8 tips. Sue, if before we start the top 8 tips, maybe that you might have got a bit of chat about what people don't like about their meetings.
Well, someone said it's the fear of looking and seeming flustered or nervous, coming across as nervous on the meeting.
I like that, flustered or nervous. You're absolutely
right. Someone also
flustered.
said, I really need my roots done. It's been months, which I completely sympathize with at the moment. But amazingly, I think on camera, if you're quite far away, nobody can tell. So
actually, that one. I am going to make a few tips. I've got a few tips on hair and makeup coming up, actually, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I actually did my own L'Oreal bottle job.
Other brands are available.
Other brands are available, absolutely. Yes, herbal essences and all kinds. And also just I've done root spray as well. I think I've experimented. That's the tip there. So let's start going into these tips then, because they're going to cover all of that. I love that. Feeling flustered or nervous. If you're out of control, that's exactly what happens. You're flustered. And we had a little mini tech rehearsal before we went live today. and my slides jump here, jump there. Everybody's slides jump around. But here's the thing, the more you do it, the more you practice, the more you get used to it. And it is like driving a car. After a while, you get in your car, you don't even think about where you put the keys, you press this button for where's the indicator? You don't even think, where's the indicator? Now I am going to indicate, now I am going to look in my mirror. You just automatically do it. And this is very much like driving a car, actually, driving or presenting on a Zoom or a Teams call or any kind of video conference. It's about hours behind the wheel. I don't think you need 10,000 hours, but you certainly need a few hours behind the wheel. So before we get into the tips, I think this one is going to come up anyway, but before we get into the tips, just get behind that wheel, just get in front of that camera and have a go. And first of all, use your family, even your young children, just have a go a lot. Every day, if you can, have a Zoom call, have a call, get in front of that camera, have an experiment, try different clothes, try black tie, but make it fun, because when you start getting used to it, it's not as scary as you first think. It really isn't. So let's get into our tips. The first 4 are LENS. We have 4 tips that spell the word lens. And lens is quite convenient for me, so I can remember these tips super easily. But if you learn to love the lens, you learn the lens formula, you will be better and you will look amazing on camera and sound amazing almost immediately. Okay, so you want to up your game, learn to love the lens. So the tip 1 is L for love the lens. So very quick tip. If you want to engage with your audience, you need to fake eye contact. And the rule of thumb is, if you look at the lens, now I can't see your little thumbnails, but I'd like you now, Sue, I'd like you to do this. Identify your lens by pointing at it. Point at your lens. I wish I could see everybody, because I bet I can see a load of fingers there. And I tell you what, even the most professional people, even people that work in television, couldn't identify their lens. They couldn't identify it because we don't think, oh, that's where I'm meant to be looking. We're looking at our screens. We're looking at our people. But actually, we need to be looking there when we're speaking. So a really, really good tip there is if we take a tip from the late, great Cilla Black from Blind Date. I think I've told you this one, Sue. Cilla Black from Blind Date used to call her camera in the ITV studio when she did Blind Date. She used to call her camera Bobby after her late husband. She was in love with Bobby. And everyone knew she was in love with Bobby. That was the love of her life. So she treated camera 1 like the love of her life. So if you need to get a post-it note and put a little love heart right next to that little dot, that's where you need to be giving all of your attention. You need to be in love with your lens. Love the lens, love the lens. And even if you take this one tip home with you today, you will be better, because that's where you're going to engage. And I know it's weird because it's a dot, it's not a human being and you can't see the body language. But if everybody looked at the lens, then when they're talking to you through their lens, you can look at them and you can get a sense of their body language. So tip 1, love the lens. So my question for you is, what would you call your lovely lens? And please share with Sue in the chat, write down in the chat box, what could you call your lovely lens? Sue, what are you going to call your lens today? I sometimes call mine Adam, but sometimes that's a mistake because I might end up angry with my children.
Yeah, no, that's a tricky one. I was thinking back to some of the celebrity stories that you talked to me about, and I was thinking maybe it would be George, but maybe that's disclosing my age.
Yes. Yes, I've interviewed George Clooney. You could call it.
Don't tell my husband. Yeah.
Yes, but it might make you react in a certain way, though.
Oh, and Anna's is Brad.
Oh,
I assume for similar reasons.
You know what? Brad Pitt. You've got to hand it to Brad Pitt. He is the most popular name for lenses.
Is he?
Number 1 on my list of names is Brad Pitt.
I want to know from the men on the chat. What would their lens be called? Lens. Yeah, we do like a straw poll. It's Brad for Whitman and
Brad for women. Who would it be for women? Yeah, and quite a
Got
lot
a
of people.
Leonardo fan as
Leonardo,
well.
very good. A lot of people call their lens after their pet. So I've had Twinkles, Bentley, Gertie, Sizzles. So please just think about what you call your lens. And then tip number 2, E in lens, because we've done, Ellie's love the lens. E is quite simply, if you've met me before, you know my hashtag, my catchphrase is eyes and teeth. Smile at the lens. Gosh, this is quite hard work, isn't it? You got to love it. Brad. Brad, I can't take it seriously now. It's actually making me blush. I've gone a flutter. Brad.
Sheila makes a good point though. She said you probably don't want to come over all hitherto with clients. So
yes,
eyes and teeth, but
yes,
but at a certain tone.
Yeah. So eyes and teeth, smile, is very easy. It's quick fix, eyes and teeth. Now, but this is why there is science behind this. The camera does pick up tells very easily, actually more than in real life. The camera picks up tells as in what's your face doing. And if you look a little bit unhappy, or you look a bit kind of serious, or you're grimacing, or you look a bit flustered, as a word, I love that word that you used earlier, I'm going to use that in my blog. If you look flustered, you look panicky, your eyes are going like this, the camera really picks it up. In fact, the other day, a friend of mine was watching it was a really professional webinar, and I think it was a big tech firm. And she said it was really well done. And then she said, suddenly, the presenter in this very, very professional, high up CEO, whatever character, was talking, and suddenly the look on his face changed, and something had obviously gone wrong. But you could read his face, like he suddenly, it was like, didn't know where to look, the text gone wrong, it's frozen, or something had happened. She said it made her feel so much better, because she thought, wow, it's easy for them to do their remote sessions, they're so slick, and then it went wrong. So, but the thing is, if you don't smile, you can look a bit kind of serious or intense. Now, the reason why smiling is so important as well is because it does lift your cheeks here. Oh yes, another quick question. If you've got time to quickly write to Sue, what makes you smile? I'd love to know. Have a bit of fun with this. And I was thinking, when I was getting these slides ready, I was thinking, what makes me smile? And it has to be the potato. When I tell you a boss was a potato for that meeting, does that make you smile? And I was doing a masterclass actually in Munich the other day. I was in London, but they were in Munich. And for some reason, the thing that the number one thing that made people smile, baby goats. Don't ask me why. Anyway, what makes you smile? I'd love to know. But the science behind the smile is that if you have your zygomatic major nerves facing up, your brain thinks that you're happy. The other thing about a smile is it lowers the back of your palate, which gives you a better voice. A smile actually changes your voice. And you know this, if you want to redo your voice message on your phone, smile. Eyes and teeth, remember? So please do keep your comments coming in. I'd love to know what makes you smile. Have we got anyone commenting, Sue, so far?
Not on what makes them smile. I mean, I must say my daughter's been making me watch TikTok videos, and the ones that make me smile the most all involve dogs or animals of some sort.
Oh, right. Okay. Dogs or
but
animals.
That's not always appropriate during a remote meeting, obviously.
No. Okay. So, but tip number 3, noise. Because we're on LENS, we're now on noise. Tip number 3. Now, we've talked about voice. So you need a good voice, clearly, if you want to speak up in meetings. But just a very, very quick check with, we don't want background noise. That's a cow. People, the amount of times I've had comments about people in, because people are in the country working, they can hear cows mooing, dogs barking. There's all kinds of things kicking off. I think the person that probably had the best viral video of how not to do remote calls, but we love him for it, was Professor Kelly, whose children ran in and joined in with his BBC News broadcast. But a good rule of thumb is just having a decent microphone and a decent space, which isn't too echoey, to cut out the background noise. So, for example, you could experiment. It depends on on how many calls you're going to be doing, or if you're going to be doing masterclasses over video, given that video is going to be more popular and more popular. Now I've got these acoustic sound tiles on my ceiling, see, and they're only about £5 or £6 each, and you can get them in all these different colors. And acoustic sound tiles aren't only to be soundproof. They would actually give if you had an echoey kitchen, for example, they will just stop the echo. So you can even put them on a board, and if you put acoustic sound tiles up quite near where you are, it acts as what's called a baffle, which stops the sound from echoing. So what I've done is I've just created a really small space here so I can control the light and the sound. And I've created this little backdrop for myself from a curtain with a little, there's me sewing my curtain hook onto my curtain. So the point is, you can create your own little mini studio if you want to. I've got a microphone here. It's a Rode microphone, but you can, if you look online, there are so many setups now. So if you want to go that extra mile and be extra professional, just go ahead and invest in a bit of kit for yourself, and you can find it all over Amazon, all over the internet. So tip number 4, this is an important one now, shot. So you look good. Sorry, you're smiling, you're loving the lens, you sound good, and now you've got to look good, okay, in your shot. So we were talking earlier about rules of thumb. General rules of thumb, a bit like the unmute rule, the mute rule, mute yourself when you're not speaking. Don't have dirty washing in the background. And you wouldn't believe the amount of people I've helped, and we've been doing speeches, and they're getting ready for their pitch and speech, and they've got no light on their face, and they've got a window behind them, and they look as if they're on the witness protection program. So the rule of thumb, we were talking about this before this session, Sue, just an easy peasy rule, but as a general rule, you want your eyes 1/3 of the way down the screen. So that 1/3, 2/3, that's the bottom third. So it's the top third. You want, imagine if you were to put 2 lines to divide your screen into 3, it's that top line there. It's the 1/3 of the way down the screen. That's a rule of thumb. So if you're far away, it's still, you line it up with the eyes. If you're really close to the camera, you still line it up with your eyes. And that is, I think, otherwise you end up looking a bit like Humpty Dumpty there. The other thing is, find the light. And that's a before and after shot. So she's got the window behind her. She's got her head down on the screen because she's got one of those cameras with the cameras at the bottom of her laptop there. And then actually all we did was move the camera, and she's got a bookshelf. Bookshelves are in. They are the most popular background. So top of the pops, bookshelf. One of my Spanish clients the other day said she went to the supermarket. They were selling fake bookshelf banners. You can buy a cardboard bookshelf for $10 or €10 or something, and put it behind you. I just think that's really funny, because you could get, like, you can imagine all the different books, really intellectual books, you know. So bookshelves definitely. And the main thing though is the light. Find the light. If you want to look better, 45-degree angle. And if you have any questions about kit, light, cameras, action, please do ask, and we're going to be answering the questions towards the end. Also, we will be sharing these slides with you after this. So if you want a little mini cheat sheet of my studio, because quite a lot of people, you might ask, it's fine. People, I do get asked, please, can you just send me how you did your little mini studio, 170 centimeters square? Where did I put my lights? You know, what have I got in it? Just so you get an idea of it, I'm happy to share that with you. And then the other big question that people ask is, how do you engage with your audience when you're in a virtual environment? So we've talked about that eye contact, that artifice eye contact. It's, you are pretending to have eye contact by looking through the lens, which makes a massive difference. Even if you're sharing content like this for some of your session, at least at the beginning, you can start by sharing your attention with your audience with the camera. But a really good rule of thumb, and when, if you're, as my background's broadcasting, and we used to get the data of the viewers' data, it's brutal. And it used to come in overnight. They used to call it overnights. And it used to say, you had a guest on at 8:03, and then the viewers went boom, the viewers got their remote control and went off. So a rule of thumb with broadcasting is that really, and this is a good rule if you're doing presentations and you're running meetings, is every 6 minutes, do something different. Now that could be a slide, a different topic, a different voice, something interactive, a question, going into you could go into a breakout room or do something a little bit different. Rule of thumb, every 6 minutes. I'm not quite sure how often I change my content. I think it probably goes at 1 minute, 2 minutes, probably not quite every 6 minutes, but that's a good rule of thumb to think about. If you do have a lot of information, you know, for 45 minutes, if you just do slides with data, it's people will switch off so you have to kind of keep them awake, or maybe ask a question, or maybe get somebody else in to speak. The other thing you can do in this environment is you can use some of the tools, like you can use like raise a hand, clap, thumbs up. So please go ahead if you want to raise a hand or clap. I'm not quite sure if we can actually see the participants list. So have you got the participants list there next to you? If you press on participants, so you can then see the reactions. If you're actually on a Zoom call, you know, when you can actually see people's thumbnails like that, you can have fun with that. It's quite good. You know, what do you think of that? Thumbs up, use the raise a hand, or give them a round of applause. It's just quite fun. It just breaks it up a bit. Now, this is what somebody talked about their roots earlier. I said, you can't talk about looking and sounding good on camera without mentioning hair, wardrobe, makeup. Put it this way. Whether you like it or not, this is like a mini TV environment. We're all now mini broadcasters. And if you were to go on Sky News or BBC, Sky's more hot on this than the BBC. If you walk into a studio and you say, well, I'm going to be a guest on the news, they say, great, get into hair, wardrobe, makeup. They don't even ask, oh, you know, what are you wearing? Like, you're going to wear that? They'll say, oh, hi. Get into that room there. Just get into that room and you can be checked. And you might not change anything. They might not change you, but they will just check hair, wardrobe, makeup. The tip there is hair, wardrobe, makeup. Yes, please. Just think about it. And I'm wearing bright red, and we were joking earlier. This jacket's coming out extremely red today. Rule of thumb, black doesn't look that great on camera. It does look a bit funereal. And it looks, if it's just black without any kind of detail on it. White zaps the light, so white isn't very good on camera either. Rule of thumb, break up blocks of dark color with a bit of color. A splash of color does work on camera well, and then avoid little dots or little stripes or little checks because they fizz on camera. So a splash of color, good. And yeah, my friend, I've got a friend who's an executive stylist, Natasha Musson. She swears by color, and I'm wearing red really because she's like, if in doubt, wear red. For men, I think, you know, a bit of color or some kind of break up what you're wearing, but definitely don't just wear an old crumpled t-shirt. Tip 7. So we're doing 8 tips today. We're on tip 7. This is really, I think we've got some questions coming in, Sue. We can either wait until the end, or are any of them relevant to where we are now? Or should we save them till the end?
I think that we're a little bit past them, so maybe we save them for the end.
Okay, save them for the end.
Yep.
Great. So just a quick one, Sue, before you put yourself on, you put yourself on mute, but a quick one for you, Sue, about the about hair, wardrobe, makeup. Is that do you think about what you're going to wear before you go on?
Ever since I met you, definitely. So I'm working from, we're all working from home at the moment, and depending on who I'm speaking to, if it's just, a sort of business as usual internal meeting, I will worry less about what I'm wearing. But certainly if it's an important pitch or it's a webinar or some other event, I'll put a jacket on because I feel that gives me more structure. Yeah. And I'll try and think about color, because because of things you've told me in the past.
Yes, and this is, and also makeup, you know, for men as well. You can always wear loose powder if you're worried about, you know, you want to look if you want to look professional. It's a big set piece. There's nothing wrong with wearing a bit of loose powder. If you can ask the people at Boots, they'll know exactly what you're talking about. But for men as well, just it's about having a half decent shirt or jacket. It's not just for women. And also just putting makeup on frames your face. But this is about, but we don't want you to be out of your personality type. So never dress outside what your natural personality type would be, which brings me on to tip number 7. And as Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, because everybody else is already taken. And the tip here is, I'm afraid you can be a bit like Marmite. I've taken this very dirty jar of Marmite here. I like that because it's an authentic jar of well-used Marmite. Because in our house, half of the house love Marmite and half the house hate Marmite. My daughter doesn't really like it. My son likes it. My husband loves it. But and I think I started liking Marmite after I was had my second child, and I had a weird craving for it. But Marmite's such a weird. It's a brilliant. It's such a, I love using this as a metaphor because it's so salty and an odd taste, isn't it? Marmite or Vegemite if you're in Australia, you're from Australia. And really you can't even describe it. It's like, why would somebody like that? It's so disgusting if you don't like it. But then why do you like it? It's so salty, it's so, you crave it. So the thing about being yourself, it's like some people might love you and they don't really know why, and some people might not like it so much. Might not like you so much. But here's the thing, you're never going to please everybody all of the time. And when you're online, there's something about being exposed and people can give feedback. And for some reason, you know, when you're in this virtual world, it's more, you know, feedback's almost more accessible and people will say what they think more readily than in real life. So I've experienced, you know, people saying, oh, I'm not that keen. What I've actually learnt myself is when I'm being myself and when I'm being genuine and being authentic, sometimes people don't like it. But most of the time, people appreciate the fact that you're just being honest and you're being yourself. And don't be afraid to be yourself. Because I think you'll be more successful and if you're not worried about being a bit Marmite. There, that's my little Marmite speech. And now, before we get to tip number 8, competition time, you can win a signed copy of my book. And I just got some new ones in. Hang on, I've got to show you here. I just got some new ones in from the printers, fresh from the, oh, they smell fresh from the printers. And if you want to win a signed copy of my book, then all you got to do is email me, esther@estherstanhope.com. And if you write tips, please, on the email, I will send you my Friday tips, which are all about confidence, articles, maybe videos, maybe how to combat anxiety on Zoom calls. If you don't write tips, please, don't worry, I will not send you any tips. I'll only send you tips if you write tips, please. But you're all in for a chance to win a signed copy of my book, and I'll sign it today. And it's Goodbye Glossophobia, Banish Your Fear of Public Speaking. So it's about speaking in public. However, all the tips are relevant to Zoom meetings and virtual world. Like, how do I start? How do I start? A good start for a virtual call would be welcome, looking into the lens. Quite often people just forget to do that. So that's the competition, Esther@estherstanhope.com, and Esther is spelled with an H, E-S-T-H-E-R. And then finally, tip 8, before we get on to questions, Zoom fatigue. This comes up quite a lot. After this, when I share the slides with you, this is on YouTube actually, this clip. I'm talking to my Harley Street coach here. I get loads of emails from my clients all over the world, from banks, from the big 4 accountancy firms. For a lot of my clients, a lot of my senior clients talk about Zoom fatigue. It's been written about, and people get tired. And you can get really, really tired because your brain is actually second guessing the body language. Your brain is second guessing what people might be thinking. You have to put in extra energy for a Zoom. When I say Zoom, I mean any video conference platform. but this, you have to put in the extra energy, and you put in the energy for the camera, and then you're putting the energy for the interpretation of how it's going. You're putting in your energy for your content. You have to have more energy on camera than you do in real life, in a way. Otherwise people might switch off. So please don't be a zombie as opposed to a zombie. Don't turn into a zombie, and don't start dreading it and hating it and getting tired from it. Have breaks, and it's okay if you feel tired. It's okay if you start resenting it, and that's normal. But that's definitely a phenomenon now. Who would have thought that we'd be here talking about Zoom fatigue or video conferencing fatigue? But don't have back-to-backs. Make sure you have breaks, and don't underestimate, you know, how draining it is for the people viewing, as well as you having to host your Zoom events. You can have a lot of fun with it, and it's a shame if we start getting absolutely exhausted from being on these remote calls all day. So you probably do need to schedule less, and I think less is more, and much shorter meetings as well, so you can take breaks. So that's a well-being tip, really. So let's hear your questions and comments, and let's have a bit of time for questions. And if you like, we can actually stop sharing and put our screens back on, if you like.
So I've got a few, Esther, to get us started, and I'm sure others will add some questions while we're working through these. So somebody said, what if you have presentation notes? So lawyers often have presentation notes because what they're trying to explain can often be quite technical, so it's sometimes hard to remember it all. How can you read those and focus on the lens?
Oh, that's a very good question. Okay, well, there are types of meetings. Okay, I think it's all about what's appropriate for the context. So very quickly to answer the question, I think if you've got very heavy notes, I would switch your camera off. If you've got to concentrate on a slide, I would say there are certain aspects of that meeting, or if it's a page turner, when you're literally going through clauses and things, I would say turn the camera off for a section, and then turn it back on, and then chat like this, and then go back, and then go to share, then unshare. I think mix it up. Remember the 6-minute rule, mix it up, because who wants to look down at the top of your head looking at notes, or who wants to look at your eyes looking down rather than looking at you? But definitely give the audience the attention, have your elevator pitch at the beginning, or you're the beginning of your meeting. Hi, we're going to be going through this today, and it's quite technical, so what I'm going to do is turn off my camera, and then we're going to go through the notes, and then I'll put my camera on at the end, something like that.
Yeah. And somebody also said that and I think for me this depends on what the meeting is as to whether it's appropriate, but somebody said a lot of people have been saying to us that actually seeing people's real life, including dogs and children and everything else, actually makes people seem a bit more human and is a benefit. So I guess it kind of depends on the type of meeting as to, you know, if it's a webinar and you've got content to present, you probably don't want someone interrupting because it'll make you flustered. But if it's a more informal session, that might be fine.
Absolutely. I think if it's informal, it's absolutely fine. I think if you actually have a pitch or something. So the other day I was working with a pitch team with one of my clients from all over the world. They had, you know, they're going to have Dublin and Madrid and London, and I think somebody from the States is joining them. And there's a bit of choreography's gone into it, and they're handing over to them, and you don't really want the kids coming in. Not really, not for that. You know, it depends. I think absolutely, if it's quite a casual meeting with colleagues, it's really nice to hang out, let it all hang out, and share what you're up to. I think it is absolutely, it's about the context. I've seen loads of people's kids, and the other day a cat sat on my client's shoulder. And it was fine because it was just the two of us. And my cat's come in a couple of times actually.
I've got two here now that are kind of connected, I think, in a way.
Yeah.
Ruth's asking, what about distance from the screen? And what she quite likes about your setup is that she can see your hands. On the other hand, somebody else, Laura's asking, what about any tips for how you stop yourself moving too much? Because when she presents in real life, she tends to use her hands quite a lot, and she's not sure that works well on a video webinar. Yeah, so what should we do with our hands?
Okay, hands is a good one, actually. Somebody said the other day, a professional online person, I was joining him for one of his, oh no, look, my glasses have steamed up. Look, that's real life. Look, my glasses have actually steamed up. I'm going to have to unsteam my glasses. That's terrible. You see, that's real life. Is that what you're talking about? Like, actually, and look, I probably need my loose powder. I've suddenly thought of Brad Pitt. He made me flustered. Hands. So I was talking the other day it was a very professional guy that runs an online business. And he was saying, use your hands more. I was thinking, really? He said, use your hands more on screen. So I was thinking, oh, I don't think that applies to me. I think the rule of thumb is whatever is in shot here, your hands will be seen. So I think that the rule of thumb is, and I know this is very strange. I know that having worked in TV studios, you know, if they say it's a close up, you know, people, then you can talk like that because it's close, so you can actually do a bit of this. And if you pan back or if you focus out, you know, I would look like this. So I think it's quite nice to have a little bit of hands. Main rule of thumb though is that you don't really want them. You don't want them taking over. You don't want your hands taking over the shot.
Very good. What else have we got? Trying to see, I haven't missed anything. What's the best way to wrap up a meeting? So obviously the welcome and the introduction is very important to try and grab people. I understand that, but how do you stop it fizzling out at the end? How do you make sure you make an impact on the way out?
I love that. How do you fizzling out? That's so funny. Well, again, it depends. It depends what the context is. We talked earlier, didn't we, about the beginning and the end. Actually, it's quite important, the beginning and the end. And just a couple of notes, really, a couple of tips here. So when you begin something like this, which is this is going to be watched back. Hello, if you're watching a recording, hello, you know, it's about making sure that you're including people that will be watching it back. So what you don't want is to begin a live show where you're saying, oh, hi, it's live, and but you're looking at the notes and you're not really saying hello, welcome to the camera. At some point at the beginning and the end, you need to look at the camera and just acknowledge, hi, welcome, how are you doing? And then at the very end, a really good tip is, in any meeting, it doesn't actually stop recording for at least half a second. So no face drop. At the end, just make sure you're like, bye, nice to meet you. Just stay there. Also, if you're doing a recording like this, you need to have that extra second to properly, you know, a nice clean stop without that. I mean, you might have seen them on the news when they're like da, 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 with their papers, and then the camera pans back. They're still fiddling with their papers. And you know that at any moment they might just go, oh. And by the way, I've seen that happen in live studios many times with swear words. So just be careful. It never goes off straight away. And also there's always an extra bit that you have to press. You know, you have to press stop twice.
Yes,
sometimes.
I've seen a lot of people talk about this, trying to look for the leave button.
Yes.
Like at the end.
Yeah, so that's
trying to be more.
The leave button's there.
Yeah, more more aware of your face while you're looking for the leave button.
Yes, I know, and I've done that many times. And of course, you press leave, and then it doesn't actually leave, and then you have to press it again.
Keep smiling.
And then it's like leave, and then it doesn't go away. You're like, okay, bye. And it's like, do you really want to leave? It's like, yes. So don't have that awkward silence. So in terms of fizzling out at the end, I would say, don't be afraid to end a meeting. I mean, if it's something live like this, and we're about to conclude, aren't we? Towards the end of the meeting, and we're going to be wrapping up. I think the main thing is have a call to action. I mean, as a general rule of thumb, have a call to action. If you want to go to or really looking forward to seeing you next time, or we're really looking forward to sharing our slides with you. We will be making this recording available for you to share. You know, thank you for joining us, and then keep smiling. So soon we're going to have to be really good at that now.
Yeah, we'll get that. Now I'm feeling under pressure.
Yeah.
Janani says, I find it difficult to speak up in large group meetings. I think a lot of us find this. You can't tell. It's the same with conference calls, right? But slightly easier with video, I think. But you can't tell when someone else is going to speak, and you might have, as a result, quite a lot of the same people filling that silence, or the risk of people talking over each other. So do you have any tips for how to, effectively moderate lots of different people to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak, or like, how do you find your space to kind of put your hand up?
Absolutely. It's a really, really good theme. And I think everyone is struggling with this because we've never really experienced this kind of format before. And it does lend itself to certain people. And some people really hate the camera and don't like being part of the meeting. So I think it's really important that the person who's chairing the meeting sets the ground rules. And I think if you're chairing a meeting well, you are the host, you're the television host. Now, a television host has to be really, really, really clever and really good at making sure the conversation flows, making sure everyone has their voice. If you've got shy people, let them write in the chat box, or let them tip them off earlier, find out what their view is, ask them, what do you think? But you're being a bit quiet. You're not there to show people up. You're not there to show that you're quiet or you're insecure. You're not there to let the big gobby people show off either. And it's up to you to shut up the gobby ones. And again, by having boundaries, by having mute. So if you want to bring somebody into the conversation, invite them in. And I think having a strong host is really important. And again, it's a skill. And it's about them understanding that this isn't about who or she who shouts the loudest gets heard. This is about giving it some flow and making it much more equal, because it's really annoying as somebody else in that meeting to hear one person going rah 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 rah, because you'll be just thinking, can't you just be quiet for a minute?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I must say my experience has been that some of the meetings I've attended actually have been much more democratic than they used to be, because of things like the chat function, which gives people confidence to raise issues, and then other people draw them in to find out more. So my experience generally been quite positive, but you're right. I think it really does depend on who's hosting, to make sure that, I mean, you see this with the children in the homeschooling as well, to make sure that all the attendees get a chance to say their piece, if there's something they want to raise, and they're encouraged to do. We've got another question.
Oh dear, well, hang on. Are we?
We've got 1 minute to go. I'm going to squeeze it in.
Squeeze it in. 1 more minute.
1 more minute, and then we will wrap up, because let people enjoy the rest of their day. Somebody's asked, can you recommend the type of microphone, not a brand, but clip on or on your desk with a stand? I suspect a lot of us who don't present for a living are just reliant on our, the lens of our laptop. But would you, if somebody was thinking about investing in a sort of standalone microphone, have you got any suggestions on what works best?
Absolutely. What I will do, I'm going to write a note to myself. I'm going to send a follow-up email now, and there's a little article they wrote in shortlist.com, which is a techie magazine, which you probably know about, and they've got all the kit. They've put all the kit, and they put suggestions. There's loads of different types of microphones. If you just put good quality semi-pro mic for remote meetings, I think you should get a standalone mic. You can put the mic on the desk in front of you. It's something that you'd use in a podcast. I think that you might as well look good and sound good. A Logitech camera's under, it's nothing's over £100, and £100, £120 would buy a really, really good microphone. I would invest in this, because you are going to be using this a lot, and why not look semi-pro?
Super. Well, hopefully, yes, at the end of this session, everyone should be going back to their meetings with extra confidence, I think, taking on board some of the tips. And I think the lens one is particularly important. I think it's very easy for us not to use that lens, and I'm trying to use the lens now, and it does feel unnatural. So I'm sure I'm going to have to get used to it, because you're right. it really does make a difference. So thank you so much, Esther, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We
And thank
really
you for
appreciate
tuning
you.
in.
We really appreciate you joining SCL today. And Simon and the wizards at SCL will be dealing with the recording of this, and it will go up on the website in due course if anybody wants to watch it again or share it with colleagues. So thank you so much. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for contributing to the webinar chat. It's always great to see who's joining us and to hear your insights and have your questions for Esther, because so many of us will have the same questions. So we really appreciate you getting involved.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And please do contact Esther to try and get her book and do some more learning on your own. I'm sure you'll get lots of excellent tips from Esther there. Lastly, just a couple of plugs. I want to say to anyone who's joined today who's not a member of SCL, membership of SCL is open to all. So if you're not already a member, full details can be found on our website. And also good to point out that membership's free for trainee lawyers and students. So we'd love to have you join our community. We have some more SCL Women in Tech Law events coming up, so please do keep an eye out on the website to find out what's happening. But also, this is your network, so please do let us know if there are particular topics or events you would like us to host in the future. We'd love to hear your ideas. So thank you once again to Esther. Thank you to all of you, and I hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have our final smile. And then the recording will be turned off there. So officially we're finished now. So now then we're behind the scenes.